The prayerful song, Lechi Lach, was released by Debbie Friedman on an album in 1997. The words refer to this week's Torah portion and echo the command that God gave Abram, soon to be Abraham, commanding him to Lech Lecha, to go forth from his land, from his birthplace, from the house of his father, toward the place God would show him. Debbie, Zichrona Livracha, may her memory be a blessing, took Abram's command and made it feminine, Lechi Lach, instead of Lech Lecha, a charge for a woman. With her beautiful melody and modification of language, a generation of women and men got to hear women included in this life-changing moment for our people. But the truth is, this moment is a wealth of inspiration and motivation for those of us who would long for a better world for women. And at this moment in our lives, it is our responsibility to glean that wisdom and inspiration. It has never been more urgent. The substance of God's command in this portion is actually quite remarkable. Abram is given 3 different descriptors of the place he's leaving, yielding no ambiguity whatsoever. But the place he is to go, Haaretz asher ar'eka, the land that I will show you. God says, what could be more ambiguous than that? No landmark, no street sign, not even a direction. The only thing that's known is what Abram must leave behind. While some of our rabbinic commentators believe that Abram had an idea of his destination, namely Canaan, of course, most believe that he was wandering, sure only of where he'd been and what must remain in his rear view. But all agree on the religious significance of his journey, implicit in its idea that in order to find his destined future, he must alienate himself from some of the most familiar elements of his past, including the most obvious sources of his previous identity, like his family status, his land and holdings, and his birthplace. Abraham and Sarah are rootless in this moment of their lives, all predictable pathways closed to them. And it must have felt a little frightening to be at that disorienting crossroads. But the act of leaving the known, once it has been deemed inadequate, a voluntary separation from what is irreconcilable with the kind of future they need to build, it is not only compliant with God's command that they leave, but also spectacularly noble and brave, given what they don't know. The portion, however, is not advocating aimless meandering. Rather, it is celebrating a clarification of values that results in the necessary separation from what is no longer who we are. In other words, the Torah teaches, for our journey to be holy, to be righteous, to have meaning beyond our own lives, we must know what we're leaving and why we're leaving it, for something better. For Abraham, he leaves all of his inherited sources of strength and power because they are corrupted by a lack of morality. The rabbis teach of an atmosphere of child sacrifice and polytheism that degrades human life. No religious faith can thrive in such an atmosphere, and so he must leave. The painful truth is that our inherited sources of strength and power are often also morally corrupt. And we need to know that if we are to move forward as Abraham did, Harvey Weinstein and Bill O'Reilly are not aberrations. They are not 2 in a million. They are just very visible and extreme examples of the reality that our lives are shaped by an inherited patriarchal system whose worldview is that a woman is a commodity, a piece of property, and a source of personal gratification. The Me Too campaign on Facebook, in which women post these 2 words, Me Too, if they have suffered sexual harassment or assault, has gone viral, with participants in this conversation easily in the tens of millions, including thousands of women in Memphis, dozens of women in this congregation, and even women seated in this chapel. There are millions of Harvey Weinsteins, millions of Bill O'Reillys, millions of men and thousands of institutions, including our own government, that with varying degrees of intent and intensity objectify and marginalize women, because doing so has always been, since time immemorial, a way men become more powerful. The horrifying truth is that even in our Torah, there is evidence of this reality. This very Torah portion, Lech Lecha, recounts this strange excursion of Abram and Sarai in Egypt. When Abram says to his wife, "You are beautiful. The Egyptians are going to want you, and so they're going to kill me. So pretend you are my sister so that I may live." Sarai, voiceless in this portion, complies, is taken as a concubine to Pharaoh, and Abram gains tremendous wealth in Egypt because of her. Eventually, God is dismayed with this arrangement, compels Pharaoh to return Abram's feminine property, and the married couple leave Egypt with Abram now significantly richer and more powerful than he was before anyone noticed that he had a beautiful woman by his side. The only way our journey, like Abram's, becomes meritorious is if we identify that the future we claim we want, the one we profess to be building, is incompatible with the place we are right now. We must admit this, admit the enormity of the problem, admit the pervasiveness of the violations, admit the implicit and systemic nature of this damaging worldview, the fact that gives all those other facts shelter, and commit to leaving it behind. And that means all of us, women and men. We must lechilach and lech lecha from this place where women derive their self-worth from being valued by a powerful man. From this place where good men allow locker room talk to take place in their presence, but without their protest. From this place where we all walk around with secret shame for the way we have been treated by or have permitted ourselves to treat someone else. We live in Memphis, the birthplace of the famous civil rights slogan, "I am a man," which of course translates to, "I am human, and I deserve your respect." But the world we pray God will show us is a world where "I am a woman" means exactly the same thing. This is a world we do not know yet. God willing, our daughters and our sons will see it. How do we begin the leaving? For women, we must continue to have the courage to share our pain, to name it when we have been treated like objects or like non-entities, like Sarah, our foremother, was in this portion we read. For men, you must be the loudest advocates for women, bravely casting away the old sources of authority and supremacy. Much of the power continues to lie in your hands. The words of objection must be as loud on your lips as they are on the lips of the women you love. Our Torah teaches that there is an obligatory, bold rejection, a sacred leaving that must take place so that we can begin our new future together. Are you ready to go? Me too. Shabbat shalom.